Well, my name is Maonlaí. I was born in 1964 in Mount Carmel Hospital in Dublin. My mother came from Galway. She was She was studying piano under a teacher there, but also under the guidance of her father, who was also a piano player and a lover of piano and music in general. And she was invited to act in the Abbey. She was part-time actress in the Taibhearc and the Gaillimhe. And somebody from the Abbey saw her in the Taibhearc and invited her to Dublin to be in the Abbey. So she was kind of like 17, 18 years old. She couldn't resist the big smoke, really. You know, who wouldn't? So she kind of she left the piano behind, really, and came to Dublin and became an actress. And that's where my father saw her. And he came from Glanmire in Upper Glanmire in Cork. He saw her, and they met, and they got married. And I was the firstborn of that union, and grew up in Clonskee, a kind of quite a, I suppose, a middle class south side kind of estate, built by Cramptons. And we grew up, my father, as I was learning to speak, my father started playing this game with me, which was giving me sounds for me to repeat. I had no idea what he was doing, but I played along because that's what he did, that's what we were doing, and that's what was going on. I didn't know any better. But he was actually teaching me songs in my language, in my own native language, Gaeilge, Irish. And the first song I learned was Buchail O'Nairne, the boy from the Erne. And the second song was Siúáin River, which I've sung a couple of times at the gigs here while I've been here. So what he gave me in doing that, because I didn't know it was a language, and so there was no sense of my translating meaning from English into this thing that he was giving me. I had no concept of it as a language. The concept grew very naturally, very organically, and the next thing I was in school, I realized, oh, okay, this is bigger than me and my dad then. And then the next thing, we were in Dunchuin in Groig, and everyone spoke it, and there was islanders, and there was music, and there was a sense of knowing in this language that I remember very clearly having for myself, feeling I know something because I have this language. I don't know what it is, but I kind of can see around a corner in a way, I don't know, and that's as a kid. This wasn't an intellectual understanding. This was something much more innocent, I suppose, in a way, but there was a sense like I know something because I have this language. And with the language comes a sense of community, a sense of love of people, a sense of love of land, and a sense of connection between people, music, language and land as well. And that's really tied up. The whole lot was tied up together. And when we went down to Dunchuin, to the Gaeltacht area of the country, every single field, every little hill, a rock that you would only see half of the day out in the ocean had a name. You know, you'd see a rock and half the time it would be just, you wouldn't see it. And then it would come, but it still had a name, even though it was under the water. Obviously, you're a fisherman, you need to know these, and you need to have a relationship with these things, you know. So that hit huge. Like the first time we went was 1971, and it was about 6, and it was just like stunning, and donkeys. And the first Americans I ever saw was in Kerry, actually, and they had really short hair because their parents thought, oh, we're going to Ireland now, you better old up, you know, let's go back, we're going back in time. So they got these real short back and sides. We were all kind of hairy at that stage, but they were all like geeky looking and old. They looked like old Irish. It was probably the first time I saw a caravan. We stayed in Maonlaí, which has become a hostel since then. But there was donkeys and there was walls and there was Tráiníonna and there was language. And I realised too, then I discovered the dialectical aspect of the language, which again was really interesting. My Irish at that stage was very strongly influenced by the West, by Connemara, by the Connemara and Aran teachers that I had in school. So when Lísh Ní Ghála, who was a waitress in the guest house, came and asked me, did I want, would I have a sausage? I make sausage agat. I said, bye. She thought I meant banya. Banya? No, bye. And somebody said, beg. Oh, dialect. Amazing. And then so in 1974 then we came on a kind of, this was it. From now on, we're going to be coming here every year. This is it. And my dad said, as we crossed the border into Kerry, he said, from now on, we're speaking Irish in this house. And, you know, I often wonder whether he even had to do that, in fact, whether he had to actually make that law and make himself into a law maker in a way. But he did, and for better or for worse. So it became law that we spoke Irish in the house, kind of thing. And also in school, we had to speak Irish. We weren't allowed to speak English. Speaking English was like smoking, you know, it was illegal. And kind of almost a polar opposite to what we had culturally undergone as a people, ironically enough. But so 1974 was more aware. I was much more aware of the language, and we'd be listening to Radio na Gaeltachta and how they'd say nuacht in Connemara and nuacht in Kerry, and arsht in Donegal and ocht in the other two, and fanacht in Kerry and fanacht in Connemara, and all these ivacha and and you know things, loads of things like that, and really being excited by it. Like it was great. I really have to hand it to my dad. He got us in time before it was a bothersome thing. It was like to this day and ever since, from the beginning, from that moment, we were excited by the language, and it was a really playful thing. And I remember coming back from Kerry one year and kind of having an attitude about Kerry Irish over Connemara Irish, you know, and that's great when you're a kid, that kind of, you know, latching on to certain teams or the whole, that side of things. And then I'm a musician, and I was a musician at that stage, and so this also fitted perfectly into my hunger for stepping out and playing at sessions, you know, and the best sessions were down there because they would include a song, they would include somebody over in the other corner who would break into a song and the whole place would go silent. And I'd be hanging around like a corner boy with my whistle and my bower on, hoping to get in with the box player and get, but I was really shy. And I'd always be waiting to be asked, and just more than delighted to sing a song or two. And I was lucky, I mean, because there was a time then in the teens where I would feel my neighborhood friends persecuted our family because we were Irish speakers. We were too Irish, and we were persecuted. Like, I had a noose put around my neck, and my brother and our friend Kevin Doran, the three of us. Kevin didn't speak Irish, but he was Catholic, and there was old ghosts living in that neighborhood that we were in, and one of them was actually written in the contract. The Crampton said first preference goes to non-Catholic people to live in this, and I think that's why my dad chose to live there. It was like, no, we're living here, and because it wasn't the most neighbourly place for us, you know. We kind of stuck out, and kind of, I don't know, I always got this feeling that my parents didn't hang out with any of the local people, like, so what was that about? So, but we were just and I never thought twice about it until more recently, you know, that we were kind of victimised. But it was partly the overt language business, and also the self-confidence that actually goes with that might be mistaken as an arrogance. So, things like that happen to you, you quieten down. And so I wouldn't be very quick in singing or speaking Irish among my friends, and I would keep it quiet. But in school, to be cultural, to sing a song would bring you to Galway, or bring you to Tralee, or bring you to Ennis, or bring you to... And you'd spend a week in this town, and you'd go wild, and you'd have a brilliant time, but you'd be protected by this music. You'd be protected by having to stay in shape for the gig, for the competition the next morning. You'd be protected by there'd be older and young musicians, so you could actually run wild and really explore your limits, but there would be a core, magnetic core of music that would keep you close to reason. And you'd be just great memories of sitting beside Donegal lads in Sean's bar in Athlone and going, this is brilliant. Don't know these guys at all, but we're just thick as thieves because we're playing tunes and we're comparing styles with each other, and we're just kids. And I was going, even then I was thinking, that's bloody brilliant. Tradition gives you an authority, and you're a kid, but nobody was like, I had teachers, but you go and you're a master of your own education. You're a master of your own destiny at the age of 9 or 10. You go looking for tunes. You like a tune, you find it, you look for it, and it's a no-brainer. It's a tradition of scholarship, natural scholarship, and I'm very rich for having had that.
Now, you mentioned there that the tradition gives you an authority, establishes a great love for the culture, for the heritage you receive. Having accomplished so much in your own life, is there anything in particular that you would like to hand on to the next generation? I would imagine, obviously, this culture. Can you talk a little bit about in terms of the generation coming up and the importance of culture in this country?
Well, my culture starts with me. I believe it starts. I'm the first person. I'm the one who goes to bed with me at the end of the night. I'm the one who will die. I'm the one who was born. I was born through my mother, but my culture starts with me, and then it's my family, and then it's my community, and then it's that's something I heard, but it resonates with me, that idea that your culture, as long as you're true to something, your influences are outside, but my culture saved my soul. It protected my soul. It protected my sense of myself. It protected my sense of beauty within myself. It protected my relationship with life and nourished it. And at a time when, through misunderstandings, family pressures, education, that was under threat. I could have gone down. I was a sensitive kid, and I could have gone down, and maybe I could have become a harder person or a nastier person, but music served me in that way, and I think that would be the biggest thing I would like. Music and culture. Culture connected me with people, but ultimately connected me with an aspect of myself that would be maybe ancestral, a genetic ancestral understanding. What I would like to see, the resonance that I would like to leave, what I would like to believe that the kids are finding in themselves and that are holding on to and carrying on, is a sense of that, a sense of soul strength, and a sense of recognition of the same in all cultures worldwide, and also to recognize the importance of what we have to learn from the native people of this country, the native people of Australia, the people who remain nomadic, and see how that relates to our own ancestry. I think because we build these towers and buildings and structures that are to do with permanence, and I don't believe it's real. I mean, I live in it. I find shelter in these places. I feed myself. I watch TV. I love movies. But I don't think permanence is real, but we have this kind of fear of, okay, if we don't put a huge building up, we don't exist, or if we don't kill the land, then it's not our land, or if we don't own it, we don't have a right to it, or something, or whatever. We spoke in the car about the Irish language and how the language is also a being. It's a sense of being. It's a way of being. And so, is liom é. Roughly translated means it's mine, but literally translated means it is with me, or I am with it. Is liom é. It's with. So it's not ownership. It's not obsessive. It's more accepting, and also accepting of the fact. And again, we talked about our hlína fírinne, and so on the journey of truth. And so death would be recognized continuum of the journey. And so the value of a language, the value of that sense of knowing that comes with a language, and the philosophy of a language, the way a language works, the way a language engineers itself within your mind, and what that makes you, essentially makes you understand beyond your verbal mind, even beyond the Irish in a way, that's the thoughts that come before any of those words, because words are still, no matter how ancient the words, like the Aboriginal people, when they talk about spiritual matters, their language, which is 40,000 years old, is too shallow for spiritual matters. They don't talk about it in spoken language. They talk about it in more refined, silent communication methods, and that impressed me, and in a way that I understood. And so these are the things that I think are really important, that are remembered, understood, and to work towards the great party. When we have all these cultures on this earth, will bring their offerings to this great party, which is waiting to happen on this fucking beautiful planet. This incredible water, hot water, cold water, naturally occurring, sunrise, sunset, abundance, providence, everything is provided, it's here. So when the penny drops and the big wake up comes, inshallah, we'll imagine, the crack.
But I get the impression from talking to the earlier, one of the things I've taken away, like not just from here, but from the course of our conversations, is that the deeper you know your own native culture, the more your eyes are open to the similarities with other culture, and it means a greater understanding and greater sharing takes place. And I ask you, because it's a question we ask as part of the gathering, are there any kind of defining characteristics of Irish culture? One of the questions we do ask here is, well, what does it mean to be Irish? It's a bit abstract, it's a bit, in a sense, kind of removed from the more kind of emotional and
sentimental,
sentimental connection we have with our culture that has been, I suppose, passed down to us from our mothers. But like, are there kind of defining aspects of that Irish culture says, yes, this is
essential.
Irish.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that comes very strongly to mind is we accept ourselves, warts and all, and we laugh quietly, but we accept ourselves, and that's very strong. It's very gentle. It's everybody's if they want it, but we're pretty good at it, I think.
We are pretty good at that.
Yeah, and being strong but we accept ourselves, and we accept where we're at, I suppose, as well, and to a certain level. And I think we're good at playing cards in that respect. We kind of hold our cards to our chest, and what's on the surface, like economy and government and those things that seem to be all over the place. I think we believe in ourselves, and I have had a lot of very positive conversations with fellow Irish people about these are good times for us. These are the times of harvest, or the times of sowing, maybe, and we hear the rumblings of cultural possibility.
I was going to ask, you mentioned native cultures, and as you know, native cultures here are on the threat. What about our native culture, our native language, music and dance, tradition?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. You do come across people who really hate our culture. Irish people who really are uncomfortable about it, whether it's a guilt thing or whether it's actually an active need to get this out of the way because it's getting in the way of some kind of plan or some kind of way. I mean, with every generation that passes away, on one hand, there are libraries upon libraries of individual knowledge lost, gone, with those who pass away. Somebody recently said that every time a master passes, they leave room for another master to rise. So there's both sides of that story. I have to believe that the language keeps turning around, and what is very important, I believe, and it's an unknown on a certain level, is the Gaeltachts, the source, the well, where the language was never broken from the mind, where the mind was never actually traumatized to that degree compared to the rest of the land, and that's very precious. And television is a very strong influence, and the whole idea of moving on. But I have to believe that they will be strong, and even though people say it's dying in the Gaeltacht, the language is dying in the Gaeltacht, I think people are speaking a lot more English, all right. But I still go to the Gaeltacht, and I cross the divide, and I go into the garage, and I hear Gaeilge around me. And it's not for me, it's not for my benefit that they're talking it, they're just using it. And we love our language, like those of us who have it, those of us who use it, we really love it. Like, I mean, one of the best musical experiences I've ever had was sitting in a bar in Carrow, and two lads are just standing at the bar talking to each other. That's one of the best musical experiences I've ever had, because they were loving every word that came out of their mouths. They were crafting each syllable, you know, and taking pleasure. And I mean, Trey, look, you have that. Like, you take pleasure in talking, and we both take pleasure in it. Like, every now and again we'll throw something here or there, and it's magnificent. And I mean,
there's an awareness, of course, of a heritage going back 3,000 years.
Yeah.
And a sense of there's a connection that exists here that goes back for generations and generations.
Nuances,
It's there, like the echoes of your ancestors.
Yeah.
You know, coming down through this language, the language crafted and shaped by them.
Yeah.
And passed down.
Protected as well.
There's another question I want to ask you as well, because we're not in Ireland now.
Yeah.
I'm, I suppose, in exile.
Yeah.
From that culture. Living out here, where I am participating, of course, with other Irish out here in Montana towards the revival of that culture through language and music and dance and so forth. And you've come out here as part of that whole thing, that connection between this state of Montana and the Irish of Montana and Ireland. I would just like to ask you if you, I know it's a very brief sojourn here, it's not your first, it's your second. And I would just like to ask, is there anything that kind of has struck you about the Irish of Montana, or any kind of aspects, features, idiosyncrasies, anything kind of you take away from this that you can say about the Irish of Montana?
Well, I look forward to just kind of lying there and just letting it replay. But one thing is a subtle sense of identity. It's not it's not sentimental, and I think that's important. Sentimentality is a little bit sticky, and it's not sentimental here. And I'd say the weather probably helps. You know, there's a kind of a fiery iron. It's just that would be that when I meet people and they say they're Irish, it's on the table. It's not kind of in your face. It's just on the table, and we can go further with it or just leave it. And it's ununderstood. I didn't realize that Montana was such an Irish stronghold. I didn't realize the extent of it, and it's a wonder. It's a wonder to me. And interesting about exile too is, like, I kind of feel on a certain level I was born in exile. I think Dublin is a great culture. It's a great cultural ball, and the native Dublin culture is very witty and very unique to Dublin. But my sort of overriding culture would come more from the West and from my mother and my father, from where they come from, and so almost being here is an extension of just being in Dublin on that sort of cultural level, and it's really interesting. I'd say it's the first time I've kind of, you know, you and I, we speak in Irish all the time, and virtually like 99% of the time we're speaking in Irish. And so that's the first time I've experienced that in America, is just that I'm with one guy and the central guy of my journey, my brother here during this trip, my new adopted brother, is you know, the person I'm with most, who's kind of made the whole thing happen for me. It's blowing my mind. I mean, when I'm going to be just shaking my head going. And so yeah, so like operating through Irish as well. Like there's a great family in Dublin called the O'Snuddies, who came from. Well, the dad is kind of his people are Ulster Snoddies, and the mother is she's Cleana Cussin, who'd be a famous stone sculptor. And there's a whole bunch of the Snuddies. There's Fergus, Angus, Cormac, Ronan, Cullum, Rossa. 6, and they're hardcore. They speak in very strong Dublin dialect. If there's a Dublin dialect, if you want to know it, it's the O'Snuddies have it, and they speak it all the time. And they're writing music completely on left field. Like there's influences come straight from Africa or straight from here, or, you know, and they actually aren't. They don't. There's a certain spiritual connection with Kerry and that with them, but they're really staunch kind of Dubliners as well. And Cullum kind of said, you know, if you've got a problem with something and you're dealing with it in English, turn over to Irish and see how the problem figures itself out. And that's kind of an interesting thing, and that I'd never thought of before. You know, that's actually take away the English side of it and work it out in the Irish language.
Well, Liam Maonlaí, I know you have an appointment, so I'm going to have to let you go. Unfortunately, thank you so much for coming out here.
Yeah.
On behalf of the Irish Studies Programme, the Gathering, all the Irish of Missoula, Anaconda, you, Great Falls, and I thank you so much.
No, talk. Míle fáilte.
Míle maithagad. Mar ag ná levan aimsre, níos fáiltí, ach big láil again.
Big láil again.
The cún of day, agus go míle maithagad chun buchas ó cúnach as tachtamach agus as ní cóil chunamach slágas na mitlín agus gach maisna chutú an áid seo agus an spreagad to the lucht na gairman sa lucht a cheoil agus tas na gaidí le an sa matana go míle maithagad.
Fáilte. But mór an anóir dom a bheith seastan seo an dalamh seo agus a bheith tamáint trís na sléite agus ag éisiart leis na scéalta faois na bondúchas ag an sá, you know, agus na an gael ríist atá acu leis an dalamh seo agus na scéalta gáin leo agus ní uair ach ruúine beag ach it's an honour for me to stand in this land, you know, and to be in the presence of the ancestors of the native people of this land, the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Flatheads, the different people, the different bands that I look forward to meeting more of. Yeah.